guys, it's Jesse, and today you get to experience the overwhelming joy that is the final battle of Blackwing Descent, the long-awaited rematch with Nefarian and his formerly decapitated, now somehow reanimated sister, Onyxia. This is not a fight for the faint of heart. Those who QQ easily and a guild that is unprepared are gonna wipe. In fact, I can honestly say I know more guilds that are willing to do heroic boss attempts on any of the other bosses in BWD, wiping for hours, rather than go back and down this fight again. This fight is all about interrupts, timing, and execution. And sadly, I better get this out of the way now, 10-man is twice as hard as 25-man because of that fact alone. During this fight, you need tanks, you need a kiter, you need interrupts, you need well-timed DPS, you need good healers. It's a doozy. Anyway, enough avoiding the dragon tail, let's jump headfirst into the strat by taking a look at their abilities. In Phase 1, when the battle begins, Nefarian will circle the chamber while you take on his sister. But just like her level 1680 self, she's kind of a pushover. Not really too much to worry about, however she does have a few more abilities that you need to be aware of. Like her previous form, she still has Tail Lash, which strikes anyone standing behind her for 15 to 20k and stuns them for 2 seconds. Also, her Fire Breath attack has been upgraded to Shadow Flame Breath, that not only does 35k shadow damage every half second for 1.5 seconds in a cone in front of her, but also powers up any reanimated Bone Warriors as well. But we'll get to that in a minute. To make matters worse, for those of you who intend to stand on her sides to avoid the first 2 attacks, her reconstructed self has been augmented with glowing orbs on her sides that explode, unleashing 20k damage a second and increasing in damage based on her lightning charge level. This charge level is based off the bar you see next to her portrait. It will slowly grow over the course of the fight. When it reaches full, she unleashes the electrical overload ability, which instantly wipes the raid. Meanwhile, while you're dealing with Onyxia, Nefarian will fly around the room, unleashing Hail of Bones. What this does is it creates animated Bone Warriors on the ground, kinda similar to the guys at the end of BWL. And if you are anywhere near where they spawn, you get hit for about 25k damage. Plus, now you have ads to deal with as well. So now let's take a look at them. Like I said, these guys are basically super-powered versions of the monstrosities you faced way back at the end of BWL in the very first Nefarian encounter. Except now, they are buffed to the max. They have far too much HP to kill, and this insane ability called Empowering Strikes, where melee and ranged attacks make them 100% stronger and 10% faster. Infinity stacking. But thankfully for you, they have an energy bar that decreases over time until they crumble to the floor, merely bones once again. They can, however, be resurrected or healed to full if Nefarian or Onyxia's Shadow Flame Breath hits them for any sort of time. It will reanimate them and bring their energy levels back up. That is bad. Good thing for you is that besides fear effects and polymorph, they can be crowd controlled and effectively taken out of the fight. Anyway, after Nefarian spits out all the ads, he will join the fight as well. Just like his sister, he comes into the fight with Shadow Flame Breath and Tail Lash, each doing about 10 to 20k more damage than her version of it. The major issue here though is that his entrance into the fight has to do with the defeat of Onyxia. The first really big obstacle at this point is the Children of Deathwing ability that grants the two 100% increased attack speed if they are within 60 yards of each other. The next big factor is that every time you whittle away Nefarian's life by 10%, he casts Electrocute, which does 100k nature damage to everyone in the raid. More importantly, it also increases Onyxia's lightning charge by 25%. So obviously now the key to Phase 1 is surviving the ads, killing Onyxia before her electrical overload, and managing the DPS on Nefarian just enough so that when he returns later, it'll be easier, but you don't do it so much that Onyxia kills you. But we'll get to all of that in the strategy section. When Onyxia is defeated, Nefarian will rise into the air, flooding the room with lava, leaving only 3 small perches for the raid to stand on. And of course, a chromatic prototype will spawn on each of them as well. When the phase begins, you must quickly get to one of the nearby platforms. The magma will cause about 5,000 damage a second, which alone isn't that much, but along with the other damage you're taking, this will be an easy way to die. Once you get on the platform, the prototypes will begin to cast Blast Nova for about 30 to 40k damage every 2 seconds. It is interruptible, but if you miss the interrupts, these alone will probably kill you way before the magma or any of Nefarian's abilities hit you. This is the key to this phase. You don't need to worry about taunts or aggro, just DPS, interrupt, and heal. In addition, while you fight to kill the prototypes and avoid the magma, Nefarian will cast Shadow Flame Barrage on the entire raid, doing 27k damage repeatedly throughout the entire phase. When the prototypes are defeated, Nefarian will return for phase number 3. When Nefarian lands again, his Bone Warriors will be resummoned into combat, and he will also retain his Shadow Flame Breath and Tail Lash. Also, as with the rest of the fight, every 10% of his life taken will trigger Electrocute. New to this phase is the Shadow Blaze Spark, which creates a purple fire in the room that spreads quickly following players around. If a raid member is touched by it, it speeds the fire up. In addition, the actual blaze itself does about 50k damage per second to anyone standing in it. Also, if any powerless Bone Warriors are hit by the blaze, they will be reanimated, and any living warriors will be wiped of all debuffs. The key to this phase is watching your surroundings, and more importantly, a tank who can kite the adds extremely well under pressure. Anyway, enough details, let's talk strat. When the fight begins, the entire raid focuses on Onyxia. The tank should drag her to the left or right walls and face her so that her tail is towards the door. The raid stands on the inside of the circle facing her side. Depending on your raid comp, when the adds spawn, you can either tank, CC, kite, whatever is good for you guys, until their energy is depleted and they're no longer a threat. The real trick for the beginning of the fight is the electrical discharge. Since you can't be on her side when it goes off, before she casts it, the tank, hopefully with some form of working DBM, will turn her so that her tail faces the center of the circle, and more importantly, so that the raid is not facing her side. The discharge will go off, it will be missed, you might get a tail lash, but that's not really an issue, and then after she does it, you turn her back around so that her tail is facing the door again. At this point, Nefarian should have landed, and tank number 2 can take him to the opposite corner, facing his face towards the entrance. To start, you just need your tank and maybe a healer or two, but when Onyxia is down far enough, you can switch most of the raid over to Nef. The trick is remembering every 10% of Nef's life casts Electrocute, which damages the raid and charges Onyxia by 25%. So realistically, you're only going to be able to get Nef down to about 80% life before you have to push on Onyxia. Once Ani is dead, Nef will rise from the battle and lava will flow in. Before you began the encounter, everyone in the raid should have been told which platform they are on. The important thing to remember is that you need healers, DPS, and interrupts on each of those platforms. When the lava rises, members go to their predetermined areas and proceed to beat the crap out of and interrupt the prototypes. Healers do your thing, and no, there is a ton of damage in this phase. I can pretty much say that if there's a phase you're going to wipe on, it's probably going to be this one. There's just a lot of damage that goes around and things that can go wrong, so just get used to it. If one of the platforms finishes their prototype before the others, use this time to damage Nef. When the prototypes are all dead, the lava will subside and Nefarian will come back down for phase 3. This phase is exactly like phase 1, except now it's just Nefarian and the added fun of purple fire everywhere. From what it seems like, the Shadow Blaze Sparky casts will always be on the location of animated Bone Warriors, so having a tank to kite them around and avoiding this is a must, since once they get hit by the fire, any CCs are pretty much useless. Also, remember, Electrocute is still going to happen every 10%, and the Shadow Blaze will continue to grow, so you gotta be on your healing, guys. And more importantly, because of the growing fires, you really need to get this guy down quickly, or eventually it will wipe you. This fight is not pleasant, and definitely intended to be one of the more frustrating and hard fights of this expansion. But, as I always say, if I can do it, so can you. So here it is, my very first Nefarian kill. guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Thumbs up, subscribe, all that junk. And as always, to be continued.